Percentages. So what is a percent? Before you raise your hand, remember, this is a YouTube video. So a percent represents a part of a whole. It's similar to a fraction. So in the same way, you could have 1/2, and this would be equal to 0.5. Both of these would also be equal to 50%. 50% would be half of something. 100% would be all of something. So to convert from a decimal to a percent, you just multiply by 100. So if we have, 0.75, we could just multiply by 100. So we would move the decimal place over to the right twice, so 1, 2, and we would have 75%, which is also equal to 3/4. In decimals, if you have a percent as a decimal, 1 would be 100% and 0 would be 0%. So your percentages are between 0 and 1, just like your fractions. So let's say we started with 1/8. So we want to know this as a percentage. Well, we know 1/4 would be 25%. Divide that by 2 would be 12.5. So we would have 12.5%. So what would this be as a decimal? Well, we would just divide by 100 and move the decimal point 2 spaces to the left. So 1, 2. So we would have 0.125. And that would be 1/8 as a decimal and as a percentage. Let's move on to the actual formula for percentages. Percent is going to be equal to part divided by whole multiplied by 100. So our part over whole, you can think of this as a fraction. So if we have the fraction 5/5, part of 5/5, which is 1, would be 3/5. So our part would be 3 and our whole would be 5. So if you evaluate 3 divided by 5, you'll get a decimal point. 3 divided by 5 would be 0.60. And now we would multiply by 100 to get our percentage. So let's move our decimal point and we would get 60%. Let's look at this problem. 24 is what percent of 120? So first let's figure out what we're being asked to find. We find our question word what. It's saying what percent. So we're going to be solving for a percent. So 24 of 120. So 24 is going to be our part, and 120 is our whole. So let's plug these into the formula and find our percentage. So 24 divided by 120, put it into our calculator, it's going to be equal to 0.2. So that's going to be equal to 0.2. If we multiply, now we need to multiply by 100. We move our decimal point over, we're going to get 20%. Let's try to solve for our part here. So if we divide by 100 on both sides, and then multiply by whole, then we'll get part is equal to percent divided by 100 multiplied by our whole. Let's try an example. What is 5% of 45? So we have a percentage here, and of 45, so we have 45 is our whole. We're asked to find what is 5% of 45. 5% of 45 is going to be a part of 45, so that's what we need to solve for. So we need to get our percent, which is 5, divide that by 100, and then multiply by 45. So 5 over 100 is we just move our decimal point, and we just move our decimal point, and we will have 0.05, and then we multiply by 45. 0.05 times 45 is going to be equal to 2.25. So 5% of 45 is 2.25. Let's try another example. What is 40% of 95? So we already know what we're solving for because this is structured the same way as the last question. So we have our percent and our whole. Let's solve for the part. So 40 divided by 100 multiplied by 95. 40 divided by 100 is going to be 0.40. We multiply that by 95. 0.4 times 95 is going to be equal to 38. So 40% of 95 is 38. Now let's solve for whole. If we divide by this term on both sides, we're going to get part times 100 divided by percent. And that is going to be equal to whole. If we simplify this a little bit, we can move our percent over, and we will get whole is equal part over percent multiplied by 100. Let's try an example. We have 60% of what number is 36? Well, we have our percentage sign here, so we know this is a percent. And now 60 of what number? Of is usually associated with a whole, so if we're taking 60% of a number, that would make the number equal to the whole. So we're being asked to find the whole. And 60% is equal to 36, so our part is going to be 36. So let's solve for our number. 36 divided by 60 multiplied by 100. 36 divided by 60 is going to be equal to 0.6, and then we multiply by 100. 0.6 times 100 is going to be equal to 60. So 60% of 60 is 36. 12 is 15% of what number? I've already highlighted what we need to know from this question. So 12 is going to be our part. So if I write that. 12 divided by our percent, which is 15, and then we're going to multiply it by 100. 12 divided by 15 is going to be equal to 0.8 multiplied by 100. That's going to be equal to 80. So 12 is 15% of 80. So here are 3 formulas. You only need to memorize one of these, and just like with any other formula, you can just plug in your numbers first and then solve afterward. But I prefer to solve for the variable first and then plug in the numbers, and so I've written it out like this.